Right, M&ds calls itself Scotland's theme park, but does it actually live up to that name? There's not many rides left, but let's go through them and see what should be kept and what should be scrapped. Right, the park has lost its headline attractions. It used to have a couple of decent coasters, or semi-decent at least, insofar as Tornado, Tsunami, the spinning wild mouse thing. They're all gone. So there's not a huge amount left, but we'll start with one of the flat rides, and that is Twister. I mean, it's a fairly standard model, as is the case with a lot of the rides here, but the one thing that I do like about this park, or maybe it was just the visit that I had, everything is run in manual mode, so when it's quiet, you get a decent cycle out of it. I went on Twister, I got absolutely flung around, which was fantastic. Again, if this was in any of the bigger parks, like a Towers or a Blackpool, you know it would be on a crippled cycle. It wasn't, so maybe a standard model, but I'd still keep it. Right, go back to Blackpool that I just touched on there. There is an attraction here that started its life in Blackpool Pleasure Beach, and that's their pirate boat known as Captain's Curse. Now, here's the thing. I don't think I went on it in Blackpool, but many people have commented on that vlog that they think it was significantly more powerful and went further when it lived in Blackpool than it does now in M&ds. So maybe it is showing its age. I certainly wasn't overly impressed with it, not to the point that I would scrap it, because there's not really much left in this park, so if you take things away, yeah, it gets even worse. But I think I'm going to put this one in take it or leave it. Actually, another flat ride that I typically do enjoy is that they've got a Miami. So theirs is called Riptide. It was the first ride I went on off the day, and I mean, I had a bit of a crappy experience on it because I got on it just as it packed in, and I'd already been strapped into the damn thing, so I waited, the engineers came, they did some fanning around and blah blah blah. And eventually they got the thing going, which was fine. It was a very, very long cycle. I was sitting right at the end of the gondola, and now this could just be a reference to me being overweight, but every time it kind of went to the end and I slammed into it, it creaked, which didn't fill me with confidence. So I typically do enjoy these rides. This one, it was alright. It wasn't anything special, so put this one and take it or leave it. Right, there's no many coasters left, right? I mentioned the ones at the start of the video that have left the park. There are still two little junior coasters, and one of them is a simple wacky worm known as the Big Apple. Now, if you've seen this series long enough, you will know that the answer to this one is I'm going to keep it. Not because it does anything for me, it's just a wacky worm, but again, for a lot of people, this might be their first coaster, and so for that reason alone, it definitely needs to be kept. Another flat ride that I am usually a big fan of is Wave Swinger. And they've got one, and I did enjoy this one. Again, to what I said with the Twister earlier, it seems to be run in a manual cycle. It was pretty fast, pretty forceful for a Wave Swinger, and it was right next to one of the food outlets that smelled amazing. So whilst I was going around, just getting the smell of Bavarian sausages, I was like, oh, love it. So no surprises. This one's also getting chucked in that keep pile. Over towards the back of the park, now they used to have a big kind of tower thing over there. That's gone. Quite a lot of things have disappeared, as you can probably tell. But they do still have these three slides at the back. Now they call them Moby's Revenge. One of them is straight down, one of them's kind of like a humped effort, and one of them is kind of an enclosed spiralling slide. I did all three, and they're all pretty good. That enclosed one, yeah. So when I went up to do the first one, the boats were wet. And I thought, all right, so the guy sort of tipped it and he sort of dried out the boat as best he could, and then I got in it and I went down and I was like, oh, that's weird. Didn't get sprinkled, didn't get splashed, nothing. Then I went down and I did the second one, the sort of one with the bumps in it. Same again, I was like, okay, not getting wet on these. And then I went back up to do the third one, the enclosed one, and the guy went, warning, this is the one you get wet. And I'm going through this thing, and it wasn't particularly fast or anything, and I was like, oh, okay, this is fine. And then just when you come out of the bottom, there's like a grate, like a drain, which you see when you come out, and then as soon as you get close to it, for whatever reason, probably intentionally, there's just this big spray of water comes flying up that you just go straight through, this kind of curtain of water, and yeah, I got completely drenched. Completely drenched. Like, the back of me was fine, the front of me, not so much. And I usually wear jeans, and well, wet jeans are not comfortable, so nonetheless, 3 good rides. I was knackered walking up those stairs 3 times, but yeah, I'm gonna keep it. So the other junior coaster that they've got, maybe I'm getting old and, you know, forgetful, because I said in that video that I remembered there being this ride, and I knew I'd been on it, because on RCDB there are two mine train coasters that have been at this park. And the weird thing is, if you look at them on RCDB, the photos are identical for both. So I don't know if it is the same ride, left the park, went on the travelling circuit for a bit and then came back, and that's classed as two rides in RCDB, not entirely sure, or if for some reason they got the exact same model back in. But in my head, so when you're standing in the station, it goes from left to right, and then it goes up the lift hill and off it goes. My recollection, I don't remember there being that lift hill. I remember it going right to left and kind of more being a gradual incline, a bit like, more like a wacky worm. Apparently I'm dreaming, that's not how it works. So anyway, I went on this and was a little bit janky, to be honest. So I'm going to scrap it, because again, there's not a huge amount here, and if I take anything away, there's going to be even less. So, but I will chuck it and take it or leave it. Another one of the flat rides towards where I started the park, it was Musik Express. Now, one of you is going to come in the comments and tell me the model names. I am shocking at model names for the sort of rides that are typically on the fairground. So it's one of those ones, goes forwards and backs, does sort of an undulating track. It was alright. Do you know, there's one weird thing, and maybe somebody can explain this one to me, because there's this kind of like metal fan on the back of each car that looks like it should kind of come out, and maybe it's supposed to have some fabric over it to make a divider or something. I can't imagine it's supposed to open and close whilst the ride's in operation, because you could just put your hand back and that would be quite dangerous. So I don't know if this is something that was part of the ride and they've turned it off, or if they've never used it. It just seems really weird. There's this kind of like hydraulic pump thing, and yeah, anyway, I'm rambling. The ride itself was alright. It was nothing special. It did the forwards, it did the backwards. It wasn't super intense. I think it was on a manual cycle like the rest of the ones I've talked about. But yeah, take it or leave it. Right, we're halfway through this video. Unlike the park, you don't need a wristband or fun tickets. You just need to hit subscribe. The next one kind of is going to surprise some of you, because it surprised me. Again, if you've seen this series, you know there is one type of ride that I typically despise, and I always put it in the scrap pile. Well, they've got one. It's a roller disco. Again, imaginatively named Disco. Now it's a weird one, because it is definitely the travelling variant of it, because you can see it's still on a trailer in the park. It's not the one with the hump in the middle. I think those ones are even worse. It's just the half pipe. It's a little bit like the one at Blackpool Pleasure Beach with Airbender. It's smaller though, and presumably because it's the travelling variant. It was alright. It was surprisingly okay. It seemed to go faster than, again, because these rides typically are on the travelling circuit, they usually just kind of do it manual, they just crank it up. So I'm gonna put it down to that. I think that might be why I preferred this one, because it had a bit of force to it. Still not my favourite type of ride by any stretch of the imagination, but this one is not going in that scrap pile because it's going in take it or leave it. The last flat ride that I'm going to cover is Dancing Galleons. Now, again, as I've said earlier, I'm not particularly great with model names for these kind of rides. Usually it's sort of crazy frog jumper or snowman or Yeti themed, the ones I've seen before. There's one at Breen that I just reviewed recently, but they got one here as well. So it's that kind of bouncy thing that goes round, and it was alright. This one though, I feel, again, it was definitely running a manual mode, and it kind of felt like it went on too long, right? I said this in the vlog, there are some rides, that you come off and you're like, oh, I just wanted a bit more. If it just kept going, like an extra 30 seconds or an extra minute. This one was not that. This was, why did that keep going? I was fed up after 2 minutes, like, please stop the ride. I say that, the ride itself is good. The cycle was the problem. So if the cycle was a little bit less, and it's rare that you want less on a ride, if the cycle was less, I'd probably say keep it. But the cycle I got, which may or may not be the normal cycle, I'll check this one and take it or leave it. Right, there's tons of kids attractions as well, and as always, not really going to speak to these, didn't experience them all myself. I've also got a set of dodgems, didn't go on those. As I said in the video, I usually do dodgems if I'm in a group. whether that is just me and all my kids and then there's enough of us to all have like 3 or 4 cars, or whether I'm like as part of a social event. If it's just me or just me and like Carly, yeah, I'm not really going to do the dodgems. I'll prefer to be kind of like crashing into people I know. So I don't know what they're like, and I don't know what all these kids' rides are like, but there are 2 other things that are not ride related. Well, there's quite a few other things actually, because they've got arcades. Didn't experience them, looked fairly standard. They've got a bowling alley, which I also did not experience on the day I was there. They've got a snooker hall, which I also didn't experience on the day that I was there. But the 2 things that I did experience, so they've got the Amazonia. Now this is their indoor kind of animal exhibit thing. I mean, the clue's probably in the name. You walk in, it's like a heated area for these animals, kind of controlled environment. And it was an alright selection. It was definitely not the best selection of animals and creatures that I've ever seen. It also wasn't the worst. There was a reasonable selection. There was a couple of monkeys in there. There was a big sort of pond thing with all the big gigantic fish in it. There were some tortoises, there were some insects, spiders. Carly loved that part. And I'm sure there were some parrots or parakeets or something like that in there. It was a reasonably good selection, I have to say. It was a pretty good selection for what it was, and it was actually really cheap. So it's not included in your ticket. You can get a kind of combo package where you've got the park plus things. We got one of those. But I think it was only like 6 or 7 quid to do this on its own, which isn't bad. And again, as I said, the cost of running that must be pretty high. You know, the heating alone, let alone the upkeep of the animals. So yeah, hats off to them. And I think for what it is, it's quite a nice addition to the park. So yeah, I'm going to keep it. Right, so the other thing that they've got as well that is kind of addition to the park is their golf. And again, this was all right. This was, now, to be fair, when we were there, late September, maybe early October, I can't remember exactly what date I was there. So kind of autumn-ish, and there was leaves everywhere. Like, they could have at least swept the course, because, yeah, it just seemed a bit odd that you're kind of playing crazy golf and there's leaves everywhere getting in the way, and strange. I did terrible, by the way. Carly absolutely kicked my ass. I'm pretty inconsistent at these sort of things, but I had a lot of fun doing it. We've got a reasonably good selection of kind of layouts to the holes and stuff. There's like a big pirate ship in the middle. There's a hole inside that pirate ship. Yeah, I got a free game out of it too. Don't know when I'll ever be back to use it, but yeah, I enjoyed it. So it's another one I'm gonna keep. Right, well there you go. There is my assessment of Scotland's theme park, which, I mean, I would argue it's an amusement park and not a theme park because there's very little theming. The thing is, so many of you have said you remember the park, you know, 5, 10, 15 years ago when it was a very, very different place where it had more attractions, it was a bit more busy, etc. Obviously after that accident in 2015, 2016, whenever it was, I think that kind of knocked a lot of people's confidence, and that's when they started to take out the big attractions. Will they ever put any back in? Who knows? I personally don't see it happening. I think they are very much targeting the smaller, younger families these days. Although I don't know if they've officially stated that anywhere. It's just that's what their rides lend themselves to. I'd love to see them put something in though, because the park still has a purpose, right? There are so many people who live in that vicinity, and just in Scotland in general, who aren't able to travel up and down the country, or indeed internationally, to the better parks that are out there. So despite the fact that this is not on the world stage by any stretch of the imagination, it still has a purpose for those who cannot get to other parks. As always, I'd love to know your thoughts on this one, the park itself, and indeed the ride lineup. If you've enjoyed this one, hit that like button and do subscribe. And if you haven't already seen that video, chuck it up here and you can check the park out yourself.